has the federal government come to you to say, hey, this is not something we want, or, have you gotten any sort of backlash? I don't know if you're even allowed to tell me.
If you want backlash, I think the National Post comment section is a good place to go.
Welcome back to another episode of Girl in the Verse, the video podcast. Today, we are chatting with Paul Craig. He is a web developer currently living in Ottawa. He's worked for the UK government and the Canadian government and is big into building websites with no business model. His recent adventure, TaxGPT, I want to get straight into it. Thank you, Paul, for being here. So great to see you today.
Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
So, Paul, TaxGPT, we've heard about ChatGPT. We've heard about different companies creating their own form of AI bot. Talk to us about TaxGPT. First of all, what is it? What is TaxGPT? Let's start with that, the most basic question.
So TaxGPT.ca, you can visit. It gives, it essentially has two paths through it. One is to make a personalized recommendation about how to file your tax in Canada for free. Like what's the best path? And then the other one is a ChatGPT AI or API hookup so that you can ask questions about taxes in Canada, sort of general questions, and then it will return answers. So that's good for more introductory information about various subject matter.
We've been hearing a lot about artificial intelligence and all these AI bots, and a lot of people are concerned and worried. Why did you decide to create this?
The short version is, a few years ago, I worked on a project with the CRA where we were trying to introduce a way of tax filing for some people in Canada. Obviously, the total population of Canada is a big circle, but we picked a slice of that sort of slice of the pie, which was people who had lower incomes, didn't move, same income source as the year before, and didn't have a change, like get married or divorced. So for people whose information doesn't change year to year, would it be possible to automatically file? As part of that, we went to see the community volunteer tax clinic. So if you are in Canada, you have a simple tax scenario, and you make under $35,000 a year, you can visit these community clinics, and a volunteer you bring your information, they'll file your taxes for you for free. So what I saw in those clinics was that people would come in with very little familiarity with taxes and almost like a sense of I can't do it, or it'll be too hard. That feeling of I know it works for other people, but for me, it's going to be not possible. And then they would sit across from somebody, they would ask a series of questions, and then they would file on their behalf. And so people walk in feeling like they can't do it, and then 10 minutes later, their taxes are filed. And so I thought maybe creating this chatbot would replicate that conversational approach of asking questions and then giving answers based on what you said, and that might be an easier way for people to approach a complex subject like tax filing.
I consider myself that person who, would hand off everything I need to hand off to an accountant and be just do it. Because I think for a lot of us, it's no time, maybe no interest, but also that feeling of, I don't know, I can't do it myself, right? So I totally relate to that. We talk a lot about AI and losing jobs or removing certain jobs because of AI. Can this potentially remove jobs?
In the far future, AI is going to take over everything, supposedly, end of the world. So I think if we're looking on that timeline, we got bigger problems. Definitely the product as it exists, it's not intended to replace professional advice, legal advice. It's more to get started with and to get a bit of an intro. Current product, it definitely is not intended to remove jobs or to go after the industry. I don't think it's not that good, to be honest with you. It's good at introductions, but it doesn't provide legal advice, can't file for you. But I think the goal in a wider sense should be to make the process simpler, to make it easier for people to use.
Is there a way that you can walk us through it just a little? Like maybe share your screen and show us even just what it looks like a bit and like maybe some of the questions? Perfect. Here we go. Show us. Wow.
Yep. I also have a CRA site open because they also have a little bot, so it might be fun to ask the same question. So it starts off, if you say I want to chat, it's you get a little window. There's a pane here. It takes up half the screen. It says, "Hi there, I'm TaxGPT, a friendly AI tax chatbot. I can help you learn more about taxes in Canada in 2023. I can help by giving recommendations on the best way to file your taxes for free in 2023, or second option, answering general questions about taxes in Canada." So if you go this first option, it will ask you your general income level. So not your exact income, but like, are you up above or below this amount? It'll ask what province you're from, and it will try to figure out if you're complex or simple. And then if you're essentially simple and below a certain income range, you're eligible to use Canada's free tax clinics. If
wow,
you're simple,
I didn't even know we had some.
Yeah, well, you should. It's a good service. It's basically if you're simple tax scenario and below 35,000, you can have your taxes filed for free. Like you need to find, essentially you can search free tax clinics on Google, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about it on CRA website.
Okay.
But they don't have an advertising budget, so it's very word of mouth.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's a good service, but it's hard to find out about them if you don't already know.
Yeah.
If you are simple situation, but you make more than that, then you're a good fit for self-filing, especially if you're low confidence, just try it out. And then if you're complex, so if you have investments over $1,000 realized, right? If you have rental income, if you run your own business, if you are a self-employed, so like Uber driver, or you send people invoices, this is complex tax filing. So this is when going to an accountant, going to a professional tax pro makes more sense. But so that's the first option. So I'm not going to walk you through it, although I can show you afterwards. I can show you the flow chart.
Sure,
very complicated looking. But this is really what most people come for. About 2/3 of people use it. Just go straight to asking questions. So it says, "Okay, I'll do my best to answer your questions." It does do this. It does give a disclaimer because it provides general information about taxes. It's not professional, and it doesn't give legal advice. So things to avoid are: don't put in your specific income, don't include personal information, and then questions and responses are saved, so I can see what comes in, but I don't know who asked the question. Right? So use it at your own risk. And once you say "I understand," then you get a free text field. You can type in what you want. So if I say, "How do I file if I have, I don't know, crypto
Good one, yeah. Crypto, yeah. Curious to see what it said.
Kind of a newer aspect of tax filing, right?
Yeah.
So it takes 3-4 seconds to come back, but it will come back. Okay, here we go. So the answer is, if you have crypto investments in 2022 tax year, you must report them. They're considered a type of property in Canada, and any gains or losses from selling or trading them are subject to capital gains tax. You'll need to determine the fair market value of your crypto at the time of acquisition. So that means if you made a trade, if you sold in February and it was worth 100 Canadian and now it's worth 200, you count the 100, right? That was the value at the time you sold. It's recommended to keep detailed records of your crypto transactions. If you're unsure about how to report them, consult with a tax professional or use a tax software program that can handle this. Remember, tax filing deadline is May 1st this year. And yeah, so it basically gives you 5 questions. And then once you run out, it says thanks. But if you hit refresh in your browser, you can just keep doing it. I just put that in because I have to pay for them.
So very interesting. I mean, I've used ChatGPT, right? I wanted to test it out. Seems, roughly, I'm not going to say the same, but similar in the sense of like you're inputting and you're asking questions. I'll just go back to our main screen here. How long did it take you to create this?
Early February, just testing the concept. So I started with ChatGPT, just that interface, if people have seen, where it's like a little chat window. I started seeing like what kind of information will it give back. And then when I was, pretty sure that the idea would work, then I built this. Basically built a site which you can think of like as the picture frame. And then so that has the links that I provide and the logo and all this stuff. And then the chat interface, I scripted the chat. So like what province you're from, blah, blah, blah. Like there's a kind of flow chart there. And then I built the API connection. So I would say it took 6 weeks end to end. And obviously I'm still making changes all the time.
Yeah.
But between like first coming up with the idea and testing it to it's like up and live and people can try, maybe like a week and a half before the newspaper article came out, that took about 6 weeks.
You were featured in the National Post, right? One of our biggest news outlets here in Canada. How is this TaxGPT different from ChatGPT? Because I know you said you dived in to see what ChatGPT could give you in terms of answers. This one is obviously tailored to Canada and Canadians, right? Because in the US, we file our taxes a lot differently from what I understand. What is the main difference here? Obviously, I'm assuming you have some sort of, that background to be able to put in those inputs. What are the differences there?
If you hook into the ChatGPT API, you can basically provide a context. So you say, here is your persona and how I want you to answer, and potentially background information, right? So if you're doing this project, you might be like, I think the default text says, you are a helpful assistant. And what I say is something more like, you are a friendly advisor for taxes in Canada. The filing year is 2022. Blah, blah, blah. There's some other stuff to just like, don't return. If someone asks about their income, don't return that, because it will give you an amount. Like if you say like my income is 120, it would just respond with like, oh, you owe 80,000 in tax. It's like completely wrong answer. So there's basically the initial prompt of, this is what you're doing. Here's some guidelines. And then if someone asks questions like this, here is some extra information, because it doesn't know more recent programs, so I've added that.
How is TaxGPT different from ChatGPT?
I would say it's more constrained in what it will answer. It also, like the TaxGPT knowledge cutoff is, ChatGPT is 2021. So newer programs, for example, in Canada, we have the Canada Dental Benefit, which is for families under 90,000 who have kids under 12, I think 12 or under, of dental work. You can get some money back for that. But if you ask ChatGPT, it'll just be like, there's no such thing, like it doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. So I'm working on what's called text embeddings, which is like basically pulling information from some site or some resource and then only using that information to answer. And then I think it would give me a lot more control over exactly what information it's pulling from.
Has the federal government come to you to say, hey, this is not something we want, or, have you gotten any sort of backlash? I don't know if you're even allowed to tell me.
If you want backlash, I think the National Post comment section is a good place to go. There's one guy in there, at least I think, Jack Thomas, but he goes through a series of arguments, and then what I think is he finds the good one. But essentially, he starts off, taxes are hard. There are also a lot of scams, right? So it was important for me that this site looks well put together, because it doesn't want to look like a scam. And it also doesn't ask for money, because people are always very suspicious about a site that is like trying to do something about taxes, also asking for money. It's like people are immediately flagged, this is a scam, right? So he kind of starts with the idea that it's not really free. This is one of the comment guys in National Post, but he's like, it's not really free. There's something behind it. There's an ulterior motive. He's stealing the data. He'll sell all the data, blah, blah, blah. But then at the end, he does say there's no guarantee that when you ask a question that it will give you the right answer.
So what's your answer to that, right? Because, people saying, well, the information's not 100%. How would you answer that?
Looking at the data, there's every day I'll go in, I'll look at like 50 to 100 questions, and then if I don't know them, then I'll look them up and I'll, see, is this right? Is this wrong? And what I'm seeing is there's like a lot of interest in the service. People are asking there's a wide variance to what people are asking. So the crypto one is an example, but like I work from home, like I drive an Uber, I have a business, like they're just very, like they're coming from all over. So it's very broad.
That was going to be my next question. Like, what are the types of questions you're getting? Because this is good information to better the software even for next year.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're getting crypto. So it's interesting. So you say you're getting some crypto ones. So repeat them again for me. Crypto one?
Those are examples, but like crypto, people ask about what are deductions I can use if I'm a freelancer. They'll ask about for like business filing, like is it better to be like a sole proprietor or like a business, like a registered business. There's a lot of questions about income splitting. Those are coming in too. Again, this is not a data analysis where I've like looked at all of them. I just kind of look at what comes through. But yeah, to go back to your question, what would you say if someone says it's not giving right answers all the time? You can't run the service. And there's a very high degree of accurate answers. So I'm definitely trying to improve the quality of the service. But I think in the meantime, there is a lot of demand for this. And like as long as people have the expectation going in that like it doesn't know everything, but like this is something I can do right now for free, like doesn't charge any money, and I can ask a few questions and see what comes back.
You always have to do your homework. You always have to, get a second opinion, right? Even when you go walk into a bank and, you're looking for a mortgage, you always got to go look for a second opinion or ask someone else, and like you said, like what's the difference between asking this question on Reddit or this app, right? Or like this software. Has the federal government approached you yet?
A lot of people in my, my LinkedIn or my Twitter are people who I work with in government. So I'd say like a lot of them have seen it. So people have reached out to me just to say like, this is really cool. Like people are interested in it. But in terms of official government, like let's chat, I've had a couple people reach out. One innovation group in one of the departments wanted to get a sense because they're looking at AI too. And then another policy advisor for one of the ministers is like, do you mind giving me a demo? I'm, like I read the article. So
your face is all over, that article and on LinkedIn. So, I mean, someone is bound to reach out. So you also mentioned demand. What has the demand been looking like? What are what type of numbers can you provide me? I mean, you gave us a sort of idea of the type of questions, because I'm also here thinking this goes beyond just taxing. This is, people want to know what makes more sense for me as a freelancer. Like I'm even thinking like my mom's a hairdresser, how do you file your taxes if you get tips and whatnot, right? Like there's so many different types of things here. This goes beyond just taxing. I think this also goes with, people's general interest in how am I supposed to be, or how should I be working more efficiently here in Canada?
Since the articles come out, there's been, so in terms of page views, so I have Google Analytics on the site, so I can see page views, right? I can't see your IP, like I don't know where you're coming from, but I can see just sort of aggregate numbers. And then I can also see people who use the service. If you ask a question, I don't know who you are. I don't even know if you're in Canada. It's like someone in the world asked this question and this is the answer that came back. So I've seen close to 20,000 visitors since the article. And then of people who have used the chatbot or interacted with it in any way, it's about half of those. And then so it's like about 10,000 submissions. So that's like pretty high, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I mean, is that I feel like it's going beyond taxes. People are genuinely, they seem interested in like figuring out how our system works. And I do this because, again, it's very different first of all, it's different between provinces, I believe. I'm in Quebec. Okay. Very different already. We pay additional taxes, right?
There's two. Yeah. Quebec's the only province where you have a second. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's already different between the provinces. And then we just file our taxes differently compared to other, North American, countries and, other places in the world. So it's also interesting to pull that sort of data of, people genuinely interested in knowing just beyond what they owe the government, but also trying to figure out how the system works. I mean, that's what I'm taking from just the couple of questions you've said here.
Yeah, what I would say to generalize is that text, like these AI language models are really good at sort of summarizing information that they've already seen before. So if you're saying like, write me a song in the style of X, it can do that because it knows about X. But if you want like a completely original novel, it's probably not a good use case.
A bit of like the work that I do in terms of like asking people questions and journalism and writing blogs and whatnot, it's making it easier for the general population to understand the jargon, right? Because and going back to what we were saying at the beginning, the minute you say taxes, a lot of us just feel like, okay, I can't do it. Like I could never do this. It's got to be someone else. What are your plans for the future of TaxGPT?
So I think short term, can I make the quality of the answers better is what I'm working on right now. So can you switch from the training data to just like custom data and then run the services side by side and try out some of the answers and see like if this gives as good or better answers, then let's just swap it out. So that might happen the next week. And then keep it running until the end of tax filing season. And then I can probably, basically it costs me money to run it. So either, I'm not sure, turn it off or leave it on low volume, but people's interest in tax filing will go. So maybe low volume is fine. And people will just kind of like, it's like limit of 300 responses for the month. And maybe that's okay. And then I think the question, which you already brought up, right? It's like taking more of a data analysis approach, like what are people asking, how easy is that to find, like can you group the questions together, and just seeing like is this the service that we need, is this bot and it just like handles everything, or is there like a specific subset that's like really needs working on, right? Like is there people really need to know about like first time sole proprietorship and it's like hard to find that information, for example. So I think really deciding what to do with it will depend on more of like a data-driven look at what's actually coming in.
Comment down below if you think you're going to use this before May 1st. I definitely am going to go have some fun with it. What would you tell someone right now who is concerned about AI? There's a lot of people concerned about it. I'm excited about it. It's allowed me, as a content creator to just work a little faster, but what would you tell someone who is concerned about AI and what they're seeing right now?
So I've gotten a lot of positive comments. I've gotten much fewer negative comments. Just to clarify.
That's good.
But yeah, I think there's the open AI letter, for example, signed by all those scientists, and really that's saying like human society could be in danger, right? And maybe like it feels like a little too far off for me to you can be afraid about getting hit by a bus too, but like you just don't think about it when you walk across the street, you just go, right? So in that sense, like the tax website is like not going to take over the world. Like the risk is someone gets bad information and they act on it and don't sort of check it or verify it with anyone else. And so to that risk, I would say, yeah, there's the two most obvious improvements are the model gets better. So it's like better at giving answers, or the data gets better. So like the data that it's pulling from is just more heavily controlled and it's all from the most recent data.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm, in that sense, like I'm keeping an eye on it. I am changing the prompt when I see something that it's not getting right that we can, fix. And I'm also trying to like swap out the underlying data. If you're worried about AI coming to take your job or something. I think, like we did have,
The internet.
I don't know, we did have the internet, which like there's a whole bunch of industries that affects, but then there's a whole bunch of new industries built on top of it. So I don't know, a lot of what I do as a software developer is someone tells me what they want to see on a screen, and I have this specialized skill set where I can get it onto the screen. But the person asking me, if they could do it themselves, they don't need me. And so I think like ultimately that's what you want, is like everyone should be literate and able to write, not like you have to hire someone to write a letter for you, right? So I don't know, for me, it's like also a question of like, is this coming from my job? But I think overall we should like welcome developments which make things easier for people to do, and like they can go about their lives without having to pay for expensive services.
I agree with you. I think your answer was pretty hopeful. So, I don't disagree. We'll see what happens. This is what's exciting. I think this is an exciting time. I like to tell all my friends, especially the teachers in my life, that they just dive into it. Just check it out, right? Try these chatbots, go check out TaxGPT, ChatGPT, go see what it can do, because there are limitations, of course. And we will not stress this enough, but please always double check, do your research, do your homework, make sure the information you are reading online is accurate. Of course, I cannot stress that enough. Thank you so much, Paul, for being here and for talking to us about this TaxGPT.
Thanks for having me. It's been a really great discussion, and happy to get the word out. And for sure, tax filing in Canada, I would say, if you've never tried self-filing, you should just give it a shot. Hope everyone gets their taxes done on time and just moves on with their lives to do other things they're more interested in, like investing in crypto.
We didn't talk about crypto. I don't know. So I'm into crypto, obviously. Just came back from NFT NYC. I have a couple of NFTs that I own. So you're into crypto as well?
I have a few NFTs and like very small like crypto investments, and mostly leaving them for now, right? After there's been, I don't know if everyone on this podcast knows, but there's been a decline in the value of crypto since about March.
The best thing to do is to purchase it and forget about it and just wait till it moons again, and then you can go collect. Good.
Definitely jump on a new hype wave for now, and just leave your crypto investments until they're back up to what the millions of dollars or whatever they're worth.
Love that. Thank you. But of course, I'm gonna have to say now, not financial advice. Okay, that's it from us. Of course, the juiciest conversations are happening up in my DMs. You can come and find me at Girl in the Verse on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on YouTube. And Paul, where can we find you?
So I'm on Twitter at pcraig3, number 3. P for Paul, Craig is my last name. You can also find me in the About section of taxgpt.ca/about.
Cool. I'm going to make sure to put all the links down below. Like I say on every podcast episode, please only click the links you see down in this description. No other links, please, please, please. We just talked about scams and potential anything. We do not want to drain your wallets. Just click these links. And of course, we will see you back here next time. Bye.